Hello, MANSCAPED. Hello, MANSCAPED. Did you say there's a code you can use for 20% off? BSR Sports 20, link in bio. Perfect. Guys, if you don't use it, you're daft. You're very, very daft.
100%.
So
need to get your hands on this.
You really do. It's honestly,
thank you.
Like, the leading market in men's grooming. Like, you can't go wrong with something.
If you're
like
not
this.
leaving yourself happy, you're not leaving the ladies happy. That's
5-star reviews. Go for it. You won't be disappointed.
Guys,
You must get this package alone just for the newspaper. Like, the newspaper just
for the newspaper alone.
It's going up on my wall.
It does mean no mess. Like, I don't think they've missed out anything. No mess, no noise, in the dark, good smell, good tone, grip, size. Oh my. Boxer's t-shirt.
Can it go wrong?
If this is not the full package, what is?
I might leave the podcast and just go use this.
If you want £20 off, 20%, £20 off. Link is in the bio. It's just very daft if you didn't do it. If you're not going to do it. Hello there, and welcome to the BSR Sports Podcast from the fans for the fans. Today we have got a very, very special preview coming into you for the Scottish League Cup final. I'm excited. Are you guys excited?
Absolutely. Excited now. The closer it gets to Sunday, the nerves will probably come in a bit more and make it a bit more awkward.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce to you St Johnstone fan Greg Browning. How are we, Greg?
Yeah, doing well, thank you. Doing good.
And also Livingston fan Angus McGregor. It's an absolute pleasure to have you both on here. How are we doing, Angus?
Doing well, mate. Thanks for having us both on to talk about the game on Sunday.
Good stuff. I'm absolutely delighted to have you on. So thank you very much for joining us. And we'll get straight into it. I think we can both agree that both teams fully merit their position in this Scottish League Cup final, yes. And there's no better way of looking at it than looking at the semi-finals first. So we'll start on, personally, what I feel is the better of the two semi-finals, purely because of the whitewash that took place. St Johnstone v Hibs, Greg, what a performance by your team.
It was. Now, I've seen us lose so many cup semi-finals over the years, especially to Hibs. Our record at Hampden is woeful, to say the least. I think we've won there once in like 100 years in any sort of cup capacity. So I must admit, I wasn't fancying us. Hibs were going well in the league, sitting third top. Our record against Hibs in the cup wasn't great. Our record at Hampden wasn't great, and I did fear for us a little bit. But what a result it was, indeed. First half an hour, I think we probably got a little bit lucky. Hibs started the match off really well. But as soon as we scored that corner, though, from the corner kick, Jason Kerr header, then that was us. Went in at half-time, 1-0 up, and we essentially killed the game off pretty much 2 or 3 minutes into the second half. Another header by Sean Rooney, an absolute bullet header from 15 yards out, 2-0, and I think Hibs just collapsed in the second half. It was pretty much one-way traffic, and we scored a third midway through the second half. So very, very comfortable 3-0 win. Great performance, and just delighted to get to another cup final again.
Yeah, I think it was very similar to, obviously, we've seen the semi-final with Hibs against Hearts, where everybody thought Hibs were on fire, Kevin Nisbet, etc. They're all on fire, doing so well in the league, and then they turned up to Hampden and it wasn't the same Hibs. There was various opportunities missed, and I feel it was a case of confidence. St Johnstone came into this game knowing they were the underdogs, didn't you? You knew you were the underdogs coming into this game, even though you had been on a good run of form before that. It was a case of, we've got nothing to lose in this game, wasn't it? It really
no, definitely. It was, and I think Hibs probably could have been 1-0 up in the first half an hour, and they probably should have been. But after that, though, we settled into the game really well, and I think, especially the second goal, that just sucked the life out of Hibs. And Hibs were okay the first half an hour, but the second half, though, Hibs just absolutely folded, and we just dominated the game. It could have been more than 3, to be fair, but it was a surprising result, and delighted to be there.
Yeah, well, you weren't there.
To be there
at
in the
game.
final, sorry.
Yeah, unfortunately, you weren't at the game. It is a sad case of fans not being able to be there during the current pandemic we're in. But you would say that St Johnstone, you definitely did exploit the aerial weaknesses of Hibernian during the game with the headers, didn't you?
We did. It was two headers, two really good headers. I wouldn't say it was the greatest marking from Hibs.
Nah.
But both Kerr and Rooney in the air are really strong. Attacked the ball well. I think we thoroughly deserved to go through.
Yeah. Callum Davidson, he's doing an extraordinary job with the club right now. I've actually interviewed him, spoke to him. He seems really down to earth, and he definitely does seem to have St Johnstone as a whole at heart. What's your thoughts on him at the moment? Obviously, getting to your first final and how long? Obviously, you won the Scottish Cup, but I'm saying League Cup final and how long? He's doing an extraordinary job to be taken over from such a legend and Tommy Wright.
Yeah, he is. I think he was the fans' choice without a shadow of a doubt. So when we knew Tommy Wright was leaving, there was absolutely no doubt at all that Callum Davidson was going to be the next manager. And I think if you ask every St Johnstone fan, 99.9% of them would have said he was the right man for the job. Mm-hmm. He's obviously a bit of a club legend himself, still holds the record transfer fee for a St Johnstone player. I think 1.75 million to Blackburn in '98. Obviously had a really great playing career down in England at Blackburn and Preston, and was obviously part of the management setup at Stoke and a few other clubs as well. So definitely got a good pedigree, and I think the job for him came at exactly the right time. And he's hopefully going to follow in Tommy Wright's footsteps, as in make it his first season in charge a trophy-winning season.
Hopefully indeed. Robbie, you're obviously an Aberdeen fan. You'll know of St Johnstone all too well with it's a bit of a derby, isn't it? So what are your thoughts on St Johnstone this season?
I've been really impressed with Callum Davidson. Like, obviously, must have learned a lot under Tommy Wright, and he's taken that onto the training ground and got St Johnstone yet again, not punching above the weight, but getting to a cup final is just brilliant for them. And I think going back to that semi-final, Sean Rooney was just outstanding, a goal and assist, causing havoc, going up that right-hand side, basically playing as a wing-back. So I really have been impressed with certain players, and there's ammo in that St Johnstone side, even from the bench, I feel, to cause danger in this match on Sunday.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think you'll find as well that his new nickname is the Bells Hill Cafu. It's Sean Rooney's nickname.
Sean Rooney, yeah. It's just brilliant. I remember watching that Hibs game and just thinking, this guy, like, I hadn't seen much of him in particular, and then that game, he just shone out to me as a guy that was got to be St Johnstone's key player, basically.
Yeah, he's been very vibrant recently, even on the park and on social media. He's another person that does seem to have St Johnstone at heart. We will move on to the second semi-final that led us to this League Cup final. We have got Livingston against St Mirren, a game that I was actually at on Saturday, which was the reverse fixture. But what I would say is, do you feel it was a lucky win, or do you feel it was a deserved win, Angus, with the pressure that St Mirren did put on you? I wouldn't say it was Livingston's best performance this season.
I would agree with you, it wasn't the best performance, but in all honesty, St Mirren didn't really trouble us too much either. I feel like the second half in particular, it was just balls kind of coming into the box, and John Guthrie's just going to header those kind of things away all day long. The main chance that did come to St Mirren was when Obika was kind of going through on goal, and instead of carrying on playing, he decided to flop to the ground, which thankfully didn't get given, because it was, in all honesty, a pathetic dive, and you'd be absolutely disgusted if you'd got it given against you. But that game, the semi-final, is exactly what Livy have done so well in these kind of past 3 seasons. Early goal, something to hold on to, and I was on the podcast earlier in the week, the full-time one. The guys were saying to me that Livy are probably the worst team to go down 1-0 to, because there is no certainty. Like, how many times has Celtic came to the Tony Macaroni and they haven't been able to break Livy down? Rangers have had troubles in recent seasons that as well. So, yeah, like, it seems as if that was kind of the game plan, try and get something early and we'll back ourselves to kind of defend up and shore up anything that comes into our box. So I think at the same time, though, not the best of performances. You don't really mind when it gets to a cup final, do you?
No, 100%. I definitely do feel that Martindale coming in, he's made such a difference. Like, we can speak about the run of games that you had. The run of unbeaten games is relentless. It's remarkable the job that he has done, obviously coming in, taking over Gary Holt. I feel at that time, I was actually at the St Mirren, I've been at 2 St Mirren v Livingston games this season actually. I was at the St Mirren game where Gary Holt left. Do you remember Gary Holt left
Last
after?
game in charge, aye.
And there was a major worry about the club, about even talks of relegation, talks of how the club are going to rebrand itself, get itself back up on the feet again. It's a real scare about this season. And for Martindale to come in and just go, boom, and just get the players up and running on their feet, because we all know the talent that's in that Livingston squad. But for a manager of Martindale's size, he's never done anything of that size before. And for him to come in, he's obviously got a love for the club, he's got a passion. But for him to come in and do what he's done at Livingston is honestly remarkable. So what are your thoughts on it as an insider, as a Livingston fan, watching that transition just go from one to another so fast?
Yeah, just starting on that game, that last game against St Mirren, Gary Holt's last game in charge. I completely agree. There was fears for relegation. I think we were in 10th place, and I think we were only a handful of points ahead of the likes of Ross County and Hamilton, I believe, at the time. And I think they had games in hand over us as well. So it really was a certainty at that moment. I don't think really anybody, well, talking from a kind of fans perspective, nobody was really calling for Gary Holt to leave.
No, nobody was.
Honestly, we were a wee bit surprised that he actually did do so. And then obviously Martindale kind of took over. I believe he was appointed as like the kind of caretaker on the Thursday, and then we had Ayr United on the Saturday after. And you can't make a much better impression than going 3-0 up in the first 11 minutes. So I think at that kind of moment, you're like, oh, what an absolute, well, that's tremendous. I don't think anybody would have anticipated that we'd then go on to go and beat Kilmarnock, to go and beat Johnstone away from home, to go on that kind of run. And it's, to be honest, still looking back at it, it is absolutely mental to be like, wow, we achieved 14 games unbeaten, one of the greatest runs from a new manager, like up there with like the Martin O'Neill and stuff like that. It's more puzzling as well to the fact that there isn't an awful lot that's kind of changed within the team or even properly the style of play. It just seems as if it's just like freshened up slightly and it's worked marvellously. Obviously tailed off a wee bit now, but yeah, to go from one extreme to the other, as a Livingston fan, we will absolutely never see anything like that ever again. So we had to enjoy it whilst it lasted.
Angus, you hear a lot about Martindale. He essentially, well, from what I hear anyway, was a big part of the setup, even when Holt was there. So I think I was like you, outside looking in. I really thought Livy would struggle when Holt left. I think it was a massive shock that he did leave. I think Holt did a very good job at Livingston. And I think most people probably thought Livy may struggle now. And I must admit, I was one of those people that thought Livy may be in contention for relegation now. But as you say, they kicked off his first match at home to Ayr in the Scottish Cup, the League Cup, and they've obviously gone on that unbelievable run. But he was obviously a big part of the club before Holt left.
Yeah, even before Gary Holt. So I believe David Martindale first kind of came into the club when Mark Birchall was in charge. I believe Martindale was there when we won the Petrofac Cup at McDiarmid Park back in 2015. I think at that kind of moment though, like his role was very, very minuscule. It was like kind of just like helping out, like setting out codes and stuff like that. Came in to be a wee bit more into the frame when David Hopkin became manager. And I believe at that kind of time he became basically kind of like a head of football. He was in charge of like all the recruitment and that. So obviously, to an extent, David Martindale has overseen how Livy have gone from League One to Championship to Premiership, assembling that squad that has done so well to achieve back-to-back promotions. And then obviously go for a 9th place finish to possibly, if this season goes well, 2 top half finishes in a row. So people do say that there has been that kind of tag that Martindale has been the one running the show behind the scenes. But Yeah, Gary Holt is absolutely a tremendous servant. To be honest, the only people who will properly know what has been going on will be those who are involved. But the more Martindale continues to prove his worth, it shows how switched on he is to the game and how much of an asset he was. And perhaps without him, Livy don't really get that far. I mean, I think particularly you look at that championship season, if we didn't particularly build a squad that had that mentality and the kind of recruitment, we went out and we took like the kind of players who'd been released from slightly bigger teams, like Greg Halkett released from Rangers, Liam Kelly released from Rangers, even like Sean Byrne and that, like players who were like at Dunfermline but weren't really getting a sniff. So it was kind of like that. It was really, really intelligent from Martindale to like go and scout these younger talents and bleed them into a team that had some levels of experience. And yeah, long may it continue, in all honesty.
Yeah, with the privilege that I have got, obviously, of being able to be at the games, I'm able to pick up on some of the smaller things that you might not be able to pick up on through a TV screen as such. One thing I've picked up on is Martindale's passion for perfection. And see, when I say perfection, I mean perfection. So Gary Holt, when I've watched Gary Holt early in the season, he's not very vocal. Even like he was never very vocal on the park, never very commanding as such. But when Martindale came in, you've seen an instant impact with just the aggression. It's not a nasty aggression, but it is, as I've just said, the plan for perfection. Every single little thing that you see wrong on that park, Martindale is already on it. He's shouting, he's screaming. See, by the end of the game, Martindale's voice is gone. We're interviewing him after the game, and his voice is absolutely gone because that's the passion that he has got for Livingston. What I would like to say is,
I would say that's one of the benefits of having no fans in the stadiums this season. Is there's been times I've been watching games and obviously there's no like crowd noise or anything like that, and my mum will just be like sitting, not really paying attention, and she'll just hear somebody shouting, "Alan, Alan, fucking hell, Alan!" Like, and it's just like, who on earth is that? And it's like, oh, that's the manager. It's like, geez, like you wouldn't want to step out of line with that kind of coming from behind you, would you?
No, it does. Sometimes it seems a scary aspect. Like, he's totally different. But what I would say is that is the type of manager that every single football fan around the world asks for. I mean, you can't ask for anything more with the passion. If you were able to see, hopefully you will be able to see soon, if you're able to see the passion Martindale has up and down that touchline constantly, demanding everything of his players, that is probably one of the reasons why you've been so successful. Is it obviously it's a positive as such for being a Livingston fan, but have you ever had that at the club before? Somebody with such a passion for the club, or is it something new?
I guess it's kind of hard to quantify. We've had a lot of managers over the years, but to this extent, probably not. No. The only kind of similarities we'll have is when David Martindale was assistant manager, in all honesty. He was behind David Hopkin, he was behind Gary Holt, he was still kind of like rolling the team on. Livy are a team over the years have had so many different managers. I mean, he looks like John McGlynn, John Hughes and all that. They've kind of been through a whole roster of Scottish managers. But yeah, I would probably agree with you that there is an intensity. Somebody who has like a proper real connection to the club, yeah, it probably never has happened before. Livingston are never really going to be a team who anybody's really dreamed of playing for other than us fans, only being a team made up in 1995 as well. Like, there is an awful lot of generations there who have grown up and been like, and we're not successful enough either for teams to, for people to be like, that's where I want to end up. But obviously with Martindale's kind of backstory and that kind of like second chance that he's been offered through the club has bred that kind of connection. And yeah, it's great to see and that we're reaping the benefits of it.
I don't think you actually know, but I'm a Partick Thistle fan, so
poor lad.
When you speak about Livingston's success, it brings me back to a certain not one day but 2 days.
What's your thoughts on Stevie Lawless?
Honestly, Stevie Lawless is he's honestly been, I would put him down as a Partick Thistle legend as such. Not a legend, but I would put him down as a Partick Thistle hero as such. But what I would like to say is you've obviously done what you've done to Partick Thistle, right? We are where we are now. I won't blame you for it as such, but you've taken in the likes of Stevie Lawless, Chris Erskine, maybe he was a bit of a flop. You've got Aaron Taylor Sinclair at the club. You've brought in Effie Ambrose from Celtic. From that day that I've seen Livingston obviously relegate Thistle at Firhill to now, to going and watching them on Saturday, do you not think Livingston have just been built themselves into a Premiership club? Not even a Premiership team, a Premiership club with the visions you have nowadays.
Yeah, I think the guys behind the scenes deserve a lot of credit because they do a lot of good work. Obviously, kind of touched on the fact that how Livy kind of built up that team in League One by kind of picking off the kind of best players who have
Teach us
just
how
been
to do
like
it,
used
please.
to. What was that?
Teach us how to do it, please.
In all honesty, it's something that kind of baffles me because I've no shame in admitting that Livingston aren't one of the biggest clubs in Scotland. Even looking in Livingston as a town itself, we're probably like the 7th best supported team in the town, which is absolutely incredible to see. You think of teams right now, so like in League One, you've got Partick and Falkirk. In the Championship, you've got Dunfermline, you've got Hearts. Who else have you got who are kind of big?
Dundee.
Dundee. Teams who are much, much bigger than Livingston and in all honesty should be doing a lot better. Dundee United, for example, as well, they spent, 4 years in the Championships recently as well?
Mhm.
There's so many teams within Scotland who, in all honesty, haven't been good enough in a number of ways. And the fact that teams like Livy, St Mirren and St Johnstone, I would say this season have been really great breath of fresh air, and the fact that how they've went about business here, and there's no reason that many other teams can't do it. I mean, you're talking about Livingston possibly being in the top 6 for 2 seasons in a row.
So I think the true epitome at the moment of a club that teams would aspire to be is St Johnstone, especially over the last 10 years. What we've achieved in the last 10 years is beyond, I think, most fans' wildest dreams. Obviously, come 3:45 on Sunday, we could be looking at our second national trophy in the space of 7 years. We've been in the top flight now for the last 10 years. We've been in European trips 5 times. We've finished third. We've finished top 6 multiple times. There's no club in Scotland that
it's
have...
hurting my heart being in League One.
That's what I mean, though.
Is there not something that finished like the top 6, like 8 of the 10 seasons or something?
Yeah, so our top 6 record's fabulous.
Mental.
We've obviously qualified
It's
for Europe
mental.
5 times. And I think when you look at other clubs in Scotland who just can only dream of even having a bit of that, it just makes you kind of...
Cheers, Greg.
Thistle, obviously, I give Thistle fans a lot of jip on Twitter, only because between St Johnstone and Partick Thistle, they're the similar sized club.
Yeah.
But Thistle have achieved, no offence, absolutely nothing in 50 years. Not a cup final, not a European trip.
It's 50 years this year. 50 years this year.
It is indeed. I think for a top 6 is as good as it's got for Thistle over the last 50 years.
We get relegated the season after off Livingston.
They did. And I think about what I've seen as a St Johnstone fan. I've been to Turkey, I've been to Armenia, I've been to Norway, I've been to where else? I've been to Switzerland. I've been to so many different places, and obviously we've won a Scottish Cup. Even during that time as well, quite a few cup semi-finals to go to as well. So
yeah.
I think if we were to win the cup on Sunday, then I think there's no doubt about it. We are the most successful club in Scotland behind Celtic in the last 10 years. And you could possibly even argue the last 20 years in Scotland based on what we've achieved.
I'll take you back to 2014. Were you there?
Of course. Although, what I will say is, at the time, my partner at the time was pregnant with twin girls.
Oh.
And she went into what we thought was labour on the Friday. Games on the Saturday. So you can imagine my absolute heartache and stress.
So were you holding away in each at the game?
No, so thankfully I went to the hospital to see her first thing on Saturday morning with my Saints strip in my bag, praying she's getting sent home. And thankfully she got sent home and she had the twins on the Monday. So I got to the final.
Jeez. What would you have chosen if she went into labour during the game?
I still go to the game. I'd have to go to the game still.
Good man. We love to see
I wouldn't be sure of this afterwards.
2 presents in a few days. That's brilliant.
You better watch.
It was a good weekend.
Over. You'll be getting a pot out of your feed. So talking about 2014 and talk about the memories and stuff. I obviously know too well Stephen Anderson played with Thistle, scored in the Scottish Cup for us, but that's nothing on what he done for St Johnstone. I mean, I can only dream of the feeling that you have thinking about that day. It must still give you goosebumps.
It really does. I think the semi-final actually against Aberdeen at Ibrox in a strange sort of way was just as good. And the reason why I say that, we have played so many cup semi-finals over the years and never ever reached a Scottish Cup final. So to be 1-0 down at half-time to Aberdeen, an Aberdeen side who'd battered us 4-0 at Tynecastle in the League Cup semi-final, you're just thinking, oh my God, not again. But Stevie May double got to the final. That's probably my favourite ever game, believe it or not, the semi-final.
Yeah.
Was our favourite ever Saints game. The final itself, we had Dundee United's card that season. Tommy Wright had Jackie McNamara in his back pocket. I think we'd beaten United 3 times that season. And I think everyone was fully confident this was our year. It was 17th of May. Stevie May's number was 17. All the stars aligned. Don't get me wrong, we actually rose our luck a couple of times. I think United hit the post in the first half and Shifty hit a free kick that hit the bar and could have quite easily hit off Fallon Manis and gone into the back of the net. But we were due a bit of luck, and obviously Anderson scored right in the half-time and Steve McLean scored the kind of crucial second goal with 10 minutes to go. So fabulous day for the club. So many fans that are in their 60s, 70s and 80s who have watched St Johnstone for decades and finally got to see us lift the trophy. So I think for kids who are maybe, say, 10, 15, 20 years old, all they know is success through they're watching a really good team. But it hasn't always been like that, can I assure you?
Robbie, you can take the pain with me. Thank you for bringing Aberdeen into it because I couldn't take that on myself.
Yeah, I was at that game and we was booking our cup final buses at half time thinking, yeah, this is brilliant. We've just beat St Johnstone 4-0 at Tynecastle at Ibrox, 1-0 up. We were saying through the F is Stevie May, and then what happened? He scores 2. And then ever since when he came and signed for Aberdeen, I was like, oh, here's the guy that's haunted us before.
Done nothing for Aberdeen, just went and joined St Johnstone, and he's brought you back to a cup final again.
Exactly, that's how it goes.
The words of the wicked witch, eh? Angus, getting back onto you, we're going to talk teams now for Sunday. Get back into the preview after talking about our memories and the best days. Sunday could even be one of the best days for both teams. I was actually at the game at McDermott Park earlier in the season, and we spoke about the semi-final earlier against St Mirren. Do you think Robinson has it in him to be the hero again? He obviously scored the winner, if you remember. I think it was Martindale's second or third game in charge, and interim charge. And what a goal it was. Do you remember it earlier in the season at McDermott Park?
Yeah. Good ball over the top and a nice wee finish for Robbo.
Yeah, it was remarkable. It was, I don't know who it was. He get passed into him and he flicked it over the fence, and Robbo just went through. Hardly any fear in him, straight through, pure confidence, right into the corner. And semi-final, what does he do? Obviously, Effie's tried to do whatever he does. He's went and hit the bar. You heard a scream of F. We'll not repeat it. And then Robbo's obviously tucked it away. It must have been a beautiful sight to see. I'm doing it time and time again this season.
Yeah, it's been quite a remarkable story. Robinson's has been obviously he joined us from East Fife. I think he was playing as like a holding midfielder for East Fife in League One at that time. East Fife that season when we were in League One, I think they beat us 3 times, and he was the man of the match in every single one. So I think that's what basically prompted Livy to sign him up essentially. I think Livy offered to pay for a surgery that he needed done badly, but yeah, ever since then he's not really been a player who has properly cemented himself into being a member of the starting 11 over the last couple of years. He's kind of came in and done a job wherever he's needed, whether that be in centre mid, whether that be as like a wide player, or whether that be up front. So in all honesty, we've kind of stumbled upon him this season. When Gary Holt won a couple of Gary Holt's last games in charge, he had Scott Tiffany playing. He got injured. Then we had Matty Poplatnik. He also got injured. And then we had Emmanuel Thomas, still up in the air about him. So it kind of became to a fact where to play the system that we wanted to play, Robinson was the only one who was properly available. But then you talk about it there, he was player of the month for, was it January?
Yeah, sorry to butt in here, but what I would like to say is you've just spoke about to fit into your style of play. Martindale actually said after the St Johnstone game at McDermott Park that he seen Robbo was getting isolated out wide. So what he done was he changed that about. He brought in a striker, and then he brought in Robbo in a centre attacking mid position, like a 10, so that he could run off. And that's exactly what happened for the goal. So you seen Robbo touched it into him.
Mullen was up top then.
Sorry?
It would have been Josh Mullen who was put
Josh
up top.
Mullen. It was Mullen that put up top. Yeah, because it was a couple of months ago, I can't remember who got put up top. But I remember him talking about the 10 position. So he's obviously had the ball. Mullen's obviously had the ball passed into him, hold it up, and you just seen Robbo just spin off his marker and just go through, and the ball was just played through nice and calmly. And what a goal it was! But it shows you that the smartness of Martindale and the ability of Robinson can catch teams out.
I think with Robinson, not saying he's anywhere near the kind of calibre of this player, but the way that he kind of plays in our system is probably more similar to like what Firmino is for Liverpool.
Yeah.
He isn't an absolute straightforward number 9. He is somebody who's just going to kind of get involved in the play, make himself a nuisance, obviously. Terrific that he added a couple of goals. His goal against Kilmarnock away is probably one of the contenders for goal of the season, I would say. A lovely wee dink over Rodgers in the very last minute of the game. But yeah, he's been an absolute terrific servant for the club, and nobody deserves it more than him to be, well, maybe Scott Pittman, but there's not many players who deserve this moment on Sunday, and I'm glad that he appears to be fit, because it would be a real shame if he had missed out after obviously his heroics in the semi-final. And yeah, hopefully he can do it again. He'll probably be the one who will start for us up top and hopefully fire us to another trophy.
Yeah, I spoke to Martindale on Saturday, and he was saying that you have no injury problems at all. I quizzed him with another question of Striak and McCrory, because remarkably Striak actually started on Saturday, and McCrory started on Saturday, and Striak's been playing. Striak's had a run of how many games? McCrory obviously played against Celtic away, but Striak's had a run of how many games? About 15 games in a row he did, and Striak played. It was a 14-game winning streak. Striak played every single game of it. So for Martindale now, in the week of a cup final, to leave out Bartley, who's the captain, he had a wee joke about it, saying that Bartley was the reason you lost 2 games in a row just there. One of them obviously against St Johnstone. But he spoke about that, and then he said, I don't know who I'm going to pick. So he was obviously leaving. He's not going to give it away. Who do you think will get put in goals on Sunday?
It's a very interesting one, because obviously McCrory was the number 1 goalkeeper at the start of the season, but in all honesty, he didn't do an awful lot to kind of merit his spot in the team. To be fair, Livingston earlier this season as a defensive system were pretty shambolic. The amount of goals we were conceding was awful. I mean, we conceded 4 in the opening second day of the season against Hibs, which is not something we've seen in a long time at Almondvale. So yeah, when obviously Striak got his chance against Rangers and he made that terrific save against Barisic, from there on there was a clamour of fans who wanted Striak to be in the side. McCrory had a couple of mistakes, most notably against Kilmarnock in the 3-1 loss, where he palmed the ball down straight into, I can't mind whose feet it was. And then that opened the door for Striak to come in, and in all honesty, Striak's been absolutely fantastic. Very good shot stopper, he's quite commanding in that as well. But the last 2 games that you kind of talked about, the ones that we lost, the one against St Johnstone, he had an extremely shaky start to the game. For some reason, his positioning was all over the place. He was kind of coming outside of the box, and then he almost got a mistake kind of capitalised from that. And then the week after that against Dundee United, we conceded in 50 seconds as a result of his poor goal kick. So it's really interesting, because are those mistakes in that enough to see him dropped? I'm not entirely sure, but if Martindale's maybe feeling that Striak being sort of unsettled and out of form, maybe that's not allowing the defence to properly settle, and that's probably the case what happened against Dundee United, where we got absolutely tanned.
Tannadised.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not entirely convinced by McCrory just yet, but what I did like about him again in the game against St Mirren, he did seem to be a lot more vocal and a lot more commanding in his box. For me, I probably would stick with Stryjek because of just how well he has played over the whole course of the season. But in all honesty, they're both good keepers, both good young goalkeepers. McCrory's got a great reputation, so if he was to start, I wouldn't be too disheartened. But for me, I would go with Stryjek instead.
We obviously spoke about you reckon Mullen's going to start. What's your thoughts on Jet?
Jet's
Do you not feel he merits a starting place?
No, Jet doesn't. Not for me, no. In all honesty, if you had to kind of develop a footballer who is the antithesis of how Livingston play, it's probably Jet.
Hold up.
I don't really mean an awful lot, mean that, but he's not somebody who's going to put himself about the park. He's not somebody who's going to go flying into challenges. For a guy who's about 6'3", he's not overly dominant in the air either. So he isn't really somebody who properly fits into our system. And saying that, though, David Martindale's going on record and saying that he feels that he's the best technical player at the club. And you've seen, there's been a couple of instances, I think it was the goal either against Ross County or Kilmarnock it was, where he does an absolutely tremendous bit of skill. He flicks it through somebody's legs for us to go on and get our first goal of the game. He definitely seems like a player who's much more of a better player coming on as an impact, where the game's maybe a wee bit more open, where he has that wee extra bit of space, because in all honesty, if you play him against St Johnstone from the start up against the three centre-halves, they're going to have an absolute easy day of it because they'll just simply put two on him, take the ball off him every time and walk away. Jet, there's been glimpses that he has proper talent, but I think he still has a long way to go to prove that he deserves to be in the Livingston starting 11.
Yeah, would you like to run us through your starting 11 quickly then? Who would you go from top to bottom? Well, bottom to top. Yeah. Go from goalkeeper first.
It's quite interesting because obviously the way that kind of St Johnstone line up, I would see Livy probably starting with like a 4-2-3-1 with probably aims to probably match St Johnstone later on the game with a 5 at the back, especially if we went to a goal up. But yeah, I'd probably go Stryjek in goals, then Devlin and Serrano as full-backs, John Guthrie and Effie Ambrose centre-backs. Then we'll probably have Jason Holt and Bartley as the kind of two holding deeper midfielders with Scott Pittman in front of them. Then Josh Mullen on the right wing. Craig Sibbald kind of is a left midfielder, but not entirely. He's kind of it's kind of like a weird system Livy do there. He's not an out-and-out winger. That's why you probably see Livy attack a lot more down the right-hand side because there is Josh Mullen's always out there. And then up top, it's got to be Scott Robinson.
Yep. Perfect then. We've got a couple of questions for you, Greg. So I've watched St Johnstone twice, once against Livingston earlier this season, and I've seen them at a very, very impressive victory against Hamilton earlier on the season at Hamilton Stadium. So I don't know what it's called nowadays with all the different sponsorships, but the one thing I did notice, if Conway and May play together, that is an unstoppable force. Would you agree with me in saying that?
No.
No,
because I don't think either of them will start on Sunday.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know both of them won't start, but that's the one time we have seen them both start. And what happened?
It was, yeah. I think that was our best result of the season up until that point, was the victory at Hamilton. I think we won, was it 4-2? Yeah, 4-0 up. And we
5-2. 5-2 it finished.
5-2 was it. And yeah, Conway got a couple of goals that day, free kick and a tap in. Stevie May scored as well, I think. So
May got 2. He broke his curse that day as well, so it was a great day all round.
Yeah, it was a great performance. They did team up very well. But I think since the season's progressed, I think Callum Davis in the shape now, and in terms of his formation that he's playing now, is very much a 3-5-2. And Stevie May, believe it or not, is now probably our third choice striker at the club. So in terms of the bench for us, very strong options coming off the bench.
Yeah, 100%. What I was going to say is, you come into this game probably the more confident of the two because you won 2-1 the other week. Do you feel that is going to play a factor in this game?
Probably not, to be fair. I think once both teams got through to the final, there was no doubt at that point Livingston were the form team. But Livingston were still unbeaten at that point. And and Livingston were still at that point rightly favourites for the match. There wasn't a lot between the sides from a betting angle, but Livingston did go in, or would go into the final as favourites. But since then, though, I think 3 or 4 weeks is a long time in football. Obviously, Livingston's incredible run came to an end by us, which is great. They then lost at Tannadice, which I guess was really disappointing given the fact that United had 10 men for, an hour of that game. And they then picked up quite a valuable point, I guess, at St Mirren. So in terms of form side, it's kind of flipped its head a little bit. We've only lost twice in the last 10, and that was against Celtic and Rangers, to be fair. And that was a narrow 1-0 defeat at Ibrox and a 2-1 defeat at home to Celtic in a match where Celtic never threatened. But Edward had a great couple of minutes, scored 2 great goals, and they beat us 2-1. Obviously, we beat Motherwell last weekend 3-0, and we absolutely battered Motherwell last week. I know Motherwell had players missing. They had quite an extensive injury list, Motherwell. But to go to Fir Park still and dominate and win 3-0 is great. So we can't be coming into this game in any better shape, to be fair. Now, the victory we had at Livy a few weeks ago, 2-1, I don't think that'll play too much part in this, to be fair. But as you say, it'll be possibly in the back of the minds that we've already beaten them, and we can take great heart that we were the club that ended Livy's great run.
Yeah, 100%. I've got a very, very fun quiz for us to finish off on, and then we'll just do score predictions, and then that'll be us. So are we ready to get your thinking caps on? We'll just do a quick wee quiz, and then we'll be ready to go, okay?
Sure thing.
So, first question. Who was the first ever sponsor of the Scottish League Cup?
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola, I would say, well.
Robbie?
I pass.
I'll give you a clue.
Before my time.
It is a drink.
Bar.
So the answer is... sorry?
Mackay's.
Bell's Whiskey.
The Bell, Bell's.
Oh.
Bell's Whiskey. Unlucky. None of you's got that. Who scored in the tie 2 weeks ago when St Johnstone reversed a 2-1 victory from previously in the season? So who scored in the tie? For both sides, who scored?
Against what team? Livy?
So for St Johnstone and Livingston, who scored in the 2-1 victory for St Johnstone?
Obviously, Sean Rooney, Scott Pittman.
And I missed penalty as well.
Correct. I knew one of you would get it anyway. Another who scored in the 2004 League Cup final. Who scored between Hibernian and Livingston? Angus, come on, Angus.
Jamie McAllister.
Sorry?
Derek Lilly, Jamie McAllister.
Do you know what minutes?
Is it 15:52?
Give the man a medal. Give the man a medal.
Round of applause.
I remember that so distinctively though, because my mum and my sister actually decided to go and get concessions at that point. And so they left our seats to go to the stands at Hampden. 0-0, came back 2-0.
Jesus, man. That's poor. That's probably the worst feeling in football, isn't it? When have you ever left and you hear the crowd just going, yeah, and you're like,
I've got no sympathy
they
for
aren't
anyone.
proper Livy fans either, so it doesn't matter too much.
No, I would never leave, Greg. What I'm saying is, if you ever left to go to the toilet, I hate leaving the ground early. I would never leave the ground early. But I'm saying, have you ever done went to the toilet or something, or went to get a pie?
Nah, never. No?
Nah. Sometimes you're busting, eh? How many times have both sides combined to be runners-up in the League Cup final? So if you combine both teams...
So
we've none.
Twice.
Yeah, it's got to be twice then.
Robbie?
I'll go once.
Once. So St Johnstone finished runners-up in 1970 and 1999. Livingston have finished runners-up 0 times.
Never.
0. He thought I was going to say something. Livingston have finished runners-up 0 times, and you've only won it in 2004. So, Greg, your team's going to need to break that curse and finish as the winner. And if you do win, Livingston may get their first runners-up medal.
There you go.
So yeah, it is twice. The answer is 2. So who scored in the 2-1 defeat to Rangers in the 1999 Cup final?
A Nick Dasovic screamer. I think it was about 2 minutes after Rangers scored, so Rangers were still giving it their songs.
Yeah, it was. Do you know what minute it was in?
8th minute, 8th or 9th.
Give that man a medal as well. We'll have 2 medals sent to your doors. Superb, by the way.
What did you say? Was that 1999?
98 it was. It was November 98.
Was it 98?
Well,
I thought it was, sorry, my bad. I
then.
thought it was 99.
No, it was season 98-99, but it was in November.
Right.
But-
So
Okay,
Rangers
Or was
actually
that too
scored.
early for yous?
So sorry. Rangers actually
So
scored
were
in the
you
6th
born
minute.
then?
Sorry, what were you saying?
I'm saying, were you and Robbie, were you born back then?
No,
1999 for me. So,
I was born in 2002. I wasn't even alive.
sheesh.
Madness
feel
is
really
a young
old now.
pup.
young pup indeed. What I was going to say is Rangers scored in the 6th minute and Dasovic's screamer obviously equalised in the 8th minute. So you got that one bang on. Well done.
Thank you.
And the last question: who has won the most Scottish League Cups? Celtic or Rangers?
Who cares?
Good answer. Who cares?
We don't
Do you
talk about them.
Do you want an answer?
Not
It begins with
particularly.
F and it finishes with the Old Firm.
I'll
There's
give
your
you that
answer.
one.
So, in fact, I think we've got one more question. Who's going to win Sunday's final?
I think it's going to be a very closely fought match. I don't think there's much between the sides. I think if you ask any Livingston fan or player, they'll fancy it. And the same goes again. If you speak to any St Johnstone fan or player, they'll fancy it. I must say, I do fancy us on Sunday. I do. But Angus will be exactly the same. He'll fancy Livy to lift the cup as well. So I think it'll be a great game.
Can you just imagine Liam Gordon standing over that blue and white bridge? Have you seen what they've done in Perth?
It's brilliant, isn't it? Really good.
Unbelievable. Can you imagine Liam Gordon standing over that blue and white bridge with the League Cup? That would
Hope
be
so.
it would be a remarkable sight to see. A Perth boy, living the dream. So that's obviously your prediction. What would have you given your prediction? What's your prediction for the game?
In terms of a score,
Mhm.
I'm going to go for 2-1 to St Johnstone.
2-1 again. So the third 2-1 of the season. Who would you say would score?
Melamed and Melamed.
Melamed's on fire at the moment, isn't he? After that performance against Motherwell, fair enough. I like your confidence. Angus, we'll go with you next. You're obviously going to want a Livy win. Who's going to win on Sunday?
I have to echo Greg's thoughts on how the two teams really matched. I think if you have to compare sides within the Scottish Premiership and say who are the most alike, I'd probably say it's Livingston and St Johnstone, in all honesty. Both two very, very honest and hard-working sides. And it's great that both have made the cup final. In all honesty, I'd prefer if there was somebody like a Hearts or a Hibs in there, so it was somebody I actually kind of dislike to play against rather than a team I kind of respect. But yeah,
All respect goes out the window in cup final day, but doesn't it?
But I don't think it's going to be a great game, in all honesty. I think it's going to be a very scrappy affair, quite a battle, with maybe a couple of moments of quality, maybe like a couple of set pieces deciding the game. I'll also go for 2-1, but obviously in Livingston's favour. I'll fancy John Guthrie to get a goal, and then a late cameo from Alan Forrest to maybe get another goal. Competition's top goal scorer this season. He's been our best player in this cup competition so far, so it would be a good ending for him if he can come off the bench probably and write himself in the history books.
I'm telling you right now, Robinson's going to score. Robinson's going to. He's done it already against Johnson. He's going to do it again. Robbie, let's go with your prediction last, and then I'll obviously go with mine. On you go.
Okay, So from a neutral point of view, I'm looking forward to watching the game on Sunday, obviously on Premier Sports. But I feel, obviously, St Johnstone ended Livingston's 14-match unbeaten run, but form goes out the window in these sort of games, as we've spoken about. And I just have a feeling St Johnstone, I'll go with Greg, I think they go edge it 2-1. I think it's going to be a very even game, have chances at either end, scrappy, but I think St Johnstone will just have enough in them. But Livy, as Martindale has said, they've played big games in playoff finals, etc. in the past, so just it's hard to predict, but I'm sticking with 2-1. So 3-2-1 so far, but to St Johnstone for me.
It pains me to say it, being a Partick Thistle fan, right? I've actually got a soft spot in my heart for Livingston. I do, because David Martindale, I'm obviously a student journalist. I'm trying to get myself to as many games as possible. David Martindale has been the best manager I have dealt with in my days of doing match reports. He's honestly down to earth. He'll take the time out after an interview and he'll speak to me. He'll get to know me. He'll just ask me how I've been. And it was the same again on Saturday. I wished them all the best for the cup final on Sunday, but no manager needs to do that. Managers can just do an interview and they can just go. But it's the respect that he has for people outside of his own team. Even though if he's respecting a journalist like that, think about the respect he's giving his players in that dressing room. Obviously, he's getting on their backs. He's giving them this and that. But as a man, there's a soft spot in my heart for Livingston because of Martindale, because of the club. Obviously, I know Derek. You'll know Derek White.
Derek White.
Yeah, he deals with that. He deals with the media and stuff. I know him as well. So, if you speak about who I would prefer to win, even though I'm a Partick Thistle fan, I would prefer Livingston to win just because of the way I've been treated by the club. Greg, I said it earlier on, St Johnstone's honestly the best hospitality in the country is St Johnstone, but I've only been to McDermott Park twice. I've been to Livingston Stadium 3, 4, 5 times this season. So personally, I would like to see a Livingston win. I'm going to go with I don't want to go with a 2-1 victory, but I just is there any other score you can give?
There could be a scrappy 1-0 for someone. I think it's
both teams I feel need to score. In the current form, both teams I feel need to score.
Yeah.
I'll go one each and I'll go a Livingston win on penalties.
Oh, don't say penalties.
Oh.
I'll tell you something. You talk about penalties. The last time I was at a penalty shootout, do you know that was actually in Livingston Stadium?
Was it Queen of the South Challenge
Queen of
Cup
the
final?
South. Oh Jesus! Don't remind me of that either. But thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Best of luck to both teams on Sunday. I genuinely do hope both teams do well. I hope it's a Rangers v Antwerp fixture. A goals fest. Honestly, I'm looking forward to it. I'm absolutely buzzing. I don't know about you guys. You must be going for sleepless nights from now until Sunday.
Well, I'm having my first drink of 2021 on Sunday, so I'm taking Monday off work. So either way, I'll be having a good skip on Sunday.
What about you, Angus?
Just usual looking forward to the game, but those nerves are going to kick in along. Probably even tomorrow at some point it'll start hitting in that this is becoming a reality. But yeah, hopefully it's a good event and something that, despite the result for either side, that both sets of fans can enjoy, because it isn't something that comes along for us very often, and it's a real shame that we can't be there, but I'm sure we'll both be supporting our teams to the greatest of our abilities as well still.
Yeah, finally not the Old Firm in a final, so we can actually have a proper game of Scottish football. How's that?
Exactly.
Best of luck for Sunday, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Robbie, thank you for joining us as well, helping me out. Until then, it's a goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys.